Well, hello once again. This is me, Leonard Wells, broadcasting as usual from HASLINGDEN, north of Manchester in the UK, on Saturday the 17th of December 2011. I was very struck by an item in the news the other day that Mr. David Cameron, our Prime Minister, and of course who is an MP, said and reminded us that the UK is a Christian country. He said this giving a speech in Oxford to mark the 400th anniversary of the King James Version of the Bible. The definitive version of the Bible, not the modern versions, the King James Version. That's the one everybody should read, in my opinion. Now, I'm going to take issue with Mr. Cameron because he said things like live and let live has become do as you please. Well, I find this rather strange because in this country we have become, for example, the abortion capital of the world, of Europe certainly. 200,000 abortions are carried out in the UK every year. You tell me, after reading the King James Version of the Bible, whether that's right. It's not for me to decide whether a woman has the right to choose. A woman only has the right to choose if there are doctors prepared to carry out the operations. So effectively, it isn't a right to choose because that's assuming that somebody's prepared to do the operation. Well, that's one aspect. Another aspect is, for example, not long ago a Christian couple from Derbyshire applied to the courts for the right to adopt or foster a child. A very loving couple with long history of fostering children. No doubt in the courtroom they were asked to swear on the Bible, on the good book, that they were telling the truth. And yet the court overruled their belief. It asked them to swear on the Bible, but then said what it said in the Bible is meaningless. Well, that's another aspect. Then, when you think about it, are we really a Christian country? Hardly anybody goes to church anymore. Practically everybody who gets married, it seems, is going to get divorced at some stage. There are several million unmarried mothers. There are people living together without being married. There are people who get married in a civil ceremony and not a religious ceremony, which to my mind is meaningless. Because at the end of the day, the guy in charge is up above, the Almighty. And he set the rules. What man hath joined together, let no man put asunder. He told us to, in the Bible, to love our neighbour as ourselves. I don't know whether that applies to the spivs in the City of London, who make great fortunes from gambling, speculating. If Mr. Cameron truly believes that we're a Christian country, he should tell the people in the City of London about the 7 deadly sins, particularly the one about greed. I am convinced, well, if you've only got to look at the figures to see how much currency trading goes on around the world, these guys are making money just by playing a kind of roulette with other people's currencies. Oh, the pound might go down tomorrow, we'll bet against it. Or the pound might go up tomorrow, we'll bet against it. Or the Australian dollar might go down against the, I don't know, the Indian rupee, and so on and so on and so on. At one time, before the days of Mrs. Thatcher and President Reagan, there was not a great deal of currency speculation. 20% perhaps of a bank's turnover would be involved. But today, they're all at it, because it's an incredibly easy way to make a great deal of money, and to pay a lot of people who, to my mind, don't do a decent day's work, fantastic salaries and bonuses and so on. Countries are no longer in charge of their own destiny because of these currency speculators. And no doubt, many of the people who are screaming that the euro is collapsing have bet heavily against it. And will make a fortune if the euro collapses. Like George Soros made £1 billion rather, betting that the United Kingdom pound sterling would fall out of the ERM, which it did. So I'd like to see us go back to being a Christian country. I'd like to see us go back to the gold standard and cut the knees off these currency speculators, because you're forever hearing, no matter what a government does or what governments do between themselves, or what will the markets say, as if somehow or other there are kinds of separate governments out there floating in space, ready to pounce on a country whose currency they've decided should be devalued. It isn't a healthy way to run the world, it seems to me. And if we can find a way back and cut these guys out, you see, one of the things they don't like about the euro is that if everybody within the EU used the euro, and more countries might join the EU, they would have less opportunity to speculate. And the euro would become so mighty that we could brush these people aside. Because, to my mind, not one of them does a decent day's work. If they call that earning a living, I'm a Dutchman. I don't speak a word of Dutch, so, well, you'll have to take my word for that. So, I'm left slightly surprised and bemused by what Mr. Cameron said, that we're a Christian country. Particularly when you read that a woman was suspended from work for wearing a crucifix to the office. And a nurse was suspended because she offered to pray. She said she would pray for a patient. Well, how can we have a Christian country where the law, it seems, wants to kick the whole business into touch? It seems rather comical and strange to me. Well, I've waffled on. There's a thought for a weekend. Are we a Christian country? I don't think so. If we're a Christian country, Christianity must come first when it comes to the law. We have to respect what it says in the Bible, because the Bible and the Quran come from above. If you don't believe that, can you tell me why should any book written like the Bible and the Quran be popular with billions of people? Ordinary men can't write books like that, although when you look at the Harry Potter business, you might have an argument against that. So I'm going to say, God bless, and I really mean that, God bless, while it's still legal in the UK to say God bless. Take care, bye for now.